Pure Jinhsi will dissolve our enemies with divine light, and today I'm gonna tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what echoes does this wonderful magistrate desire? None other than 5-piece celestial light, a befitting set for this heavenly lady. The set is a perfect match for her kit, with the 2-piece providing her some nifty spectral damage percent, and the full set effect stacking on even more after she casts her intro skill. This set works perfectly within her kit, and there's no better option for her over this. Excellent choice that you should farm for as soon as to notice. 2-piece mix and match sets include 2-piece spectral percent, attack percent, and skill percent. Her main animal will be none other than the legendary Sentinel Jue himself. When you cast him, he'll do damage and continue to do damage once every second for 15 seconds. The damage is counted as skill damage, fitting in perfectly with Jinhsi's kit. And once you use him, you gain a 16% skill damage buff. You have no reason to consider any other option. Farm this lad for your magistrate as soon as you can. As for Jinhsi's main stats, simple. Go for a crit percent 4 cost, a spectral percent 3 cost, a spectral percent 3 cost, an attack percent 1 cost, and an attack percent 1 cost. A very basic DPS setup. This covers for all of the stats that she really enjoys. However, as always, you won't lose much out of using an attack percent 3 cost with good substats over a spectral percent 3 cost. You can even consider going for a 4-4-1-1-1 build, which features you going all in on crit stats with your Jinhsi and having 3 attack percent 1 costs, but that will generally be worse than going for the standard setup. Still, you have plenty of viable options for her. As for this almighty magistrate stat goals, simple. Go for 75 to 260 crit on Sig, 70 to 220 crit on non-Sig, 2000 attack on Sig, and 1800 attack on a non-attack 4-star. Once you've reached those breakpoints, your Sentinel Resonator will be ready to rumble echoes-wise. Celestial Light is the only 5-piece set that's truly viable on Jinhsi. 2-piece based placeholders are fine until you can get a full light set, but aim for it as soon as you possibly can. To defend the lands of Jinzhou, this lovely young lady is gonna need the right weapons for the job. So what'll her finest choices be? None other than Ages of Harvest. This is her tailor-made signature weapon, so naturally, it shines brilliantly on her. She gets plenty of stats from this which aid her damage splendidly, such as attribute damage bonus and resonant skill bonus. She's able to stack up to 48% skill bonus from this weapon alone. That's not even mentioning the lovely amount of crit rate which will make building her echo stats far more comfortable. Easily her finest best in slot pick. Verdant Summit will be your next best bet. You'll gain some attribute bonus from this too, which is a very universal buff that she can take advantage of well. The heavy bonus is wasted on her, but hey, you get a real nifty amount of crit damage with this weapon option. Excellent alternative choice for her. Lustrous Razor will work fine as well if you have no other 5-star broad blades. The Liberation damage bonus isn't too bad, since her Liberation is capable of dealing some neat damage, even if it's not the main meat of her kit. You get a sweet amount of attack out of his choice as well. Even if it falls behind her other 5-star picks, it'll remain as being your best bet if you only have 4-star weapons to choose from. Waning Redshift is quite a solid 4-star option, since it grants some energy and attack percent as a reward for casting your skill, not to mention the pretty solid amount of attack percent that it provides. Lovely 4-star pick if you have access to it. Helios Cleaver is another attack stick that functions when you use your resonant skill, so as you'd expect, it's a good 4-star weapon option for our beloved magistrate. Autumn Trace, despite providing crit rate, actually ranks lower than both Waning Redshift and Helios Cleaver. While the stat stick is lovely, you aren't getting much out of the weapon passive. Don't get me wrong, it's a good Jinhsi choice, but considering that it's a battle pass option, a little wasted on her, considering that she doesn't really appreciate it over more accessible weapon options. Mediations is the brand new craftable weapon that was introduced within the version 2.0 update, as part of a new series of craftables that were brought into the game, so that means every player is able to access it, no matter what. Unfortunately, the passive is going to be totally worthless on our dear magistrate, because she and her teammates apply no debuffs to enemies whatsoever. However, you can still 100% make use of this weapon until you're able to land a more synergistic option, because the base attack on this choice is quite high. In fact, higher than a usual 4-star weapon, while still providing additional attack percent on top of that via the main stat. Considering that anybody can craft this for free, that's a pretty good deal. Use it until you can get an upgrade for her. Even on cheaper weapon options, you will be very impressed with the damage output that she offers. While her best completely free option might look totally fried next to your other picks, don't worry, she will still impress performance-wise, and once you can manage upgrades, you'll be even more impressed. Yet who will be teaming up with our dear magistrate in her quest to safeguard Jinzhou and its people? Well, in terms of second slot teammates, you're not gonna find anybody better for the job over everyone's favorite silly painter, Jaja. She acts as Jinhsi's premium best in slot support without question. This is for a couple of reasons. First off, she does coordinated attacks, and a whole lot of them too. Therefore, she synergizes perfectly with the Magistrate, who wants a good chunk of those in order to build up her stacks. Secondly, while the Glacial percent in her outro skill is totally wasted on the Magistrate, don't sleep on the massive amount of skill percent. It's a legendary amount of buffing which covers nearly the entirety of Jinhsi's kit, since so much of her damage profile counts as skill damage. Just make sure that you cast Judge's Burst at the start of a rotation, so that the duration of her coordinated attacks will last throughout Jinhsi's entire rotation. The Silly Painter also features incredible ease of use, and considering the Jue Sentinel Resonator isn't exactly the hardest unit to play in the world already, they're a match made in the Imperator-ordained heaven. So if you're a casual player that doesn't enjoy more complex gameplay all that much, consider using this pair. Joja can also contribute her own nice amount of personal damage, especially if you have her on Rhyme Draped Sprouts or Stringmaster. Moonlight Clouds and the new Empyrean set are able to buff up Jinhsi's attack as well. Definitely an insane synergy for sure. Otherwise, if you're fine with some more difficult gameplay, then you'll be able to make excellent use out of Yinlin. She offers coordinated attacks to help build up Jinhsi stacks, provides a crud ton of personal damage, especially if she is Stringmaster equipped, and buff up attack percent through the use of 5-piece Empyrean. There's also her 25% Liberation damage amp, which is very nifty indeed. Joja is generally more comfortable to use while offering better buffs. However, Yinlin is still capable of putting in some excellent work within these teams. It's an excellent use for your Spy Lady. If you're willing to put up with the higher gameplay difficulty level, then you can achieve some pretty high damage ceilings with this pairing. Especially nice if you've poured some solid investment into your Yinlin. Great synergy. No limited 5-star resonators to support your Jinhsi? No problem. Yuanwu is here to save a day. The guy doesn't even need any investment in order to hit the ground running. He can literally do his job down at level 20 with 0 echoes equipped, because you're mostly just using him to farm coordinated attacks for stacks. However, he can put in some nice work as a buffer too, if you stick him on Originite Type 3 and 5-piece Rejuvenating Glow. He's a permanently free character that everybody gains access to as well. So if you don't have either the Silly Painter or Saucy Spy, then this fine gentleman will be a great asset to you, as he'll get the job done splendidly. Mortefi works as a 4-star second slot option too, but I personally prefer Yuanwu over him here, as he's better utilized by the Magistrate while also requiring less investment. He has some coordinated attacks to offer while also having the ability to hold Static Mist and buff attack percent by 20% via his X6. Neat stuff. However, I would really only use him if you don't have use for him anywhere else on your account, as Yuanwu can get the same job done but for much cheaper. In terms of 3rd slot teammates, your options are pretty much what you'd expect. Shorekeeper, Verena, and Baichi as your 4-star pick. I'd like to highlight how Verena's coordinated attacks can be quite helpful for Jinhsi. She does them very fast as well, so they actually have a really neat specific synergy with one another. With that being said, most of her 2nd slot teammates provide the Magistrate with enough stacks already, making the Plant Kid not a must. However, it's still a neat thing that she's able to do that I wanted to point out. The other 2 healers are excellent for their highly universal buffs, with Shorekeeper of course providing the strongest buffs out of the 3. Baichi is pretty solid as your free-to-play friendly 4-star option if your other 2 healers are in use within other TOA teams. Example teams include Jinhsi, Joja, Shorekeeper, the Dragon Lady, Yinlin, Verena, Thunder Guide Us, Yuanwu or Mortefi, and Baichi. You get the gist. Yet how exactly does Jinhsi play? Well, you're going to have an opener for her, then the rotation that you perform after you've already cast all of your team's supportive abilities. The reason as to why you want to do an opener with her is so that you can cast her outro skill, which allows her to build up stacks way faster. Her opener goes a little something like this. Basic 4 times, skill, basic 4 times after using her skill, then use her initial nuke. At this point, swap into your supports to do their rotations.
Leave it to me.
Once you swap back into her after managing the rest of your team, you're gonna want to do this. Intro in, use the echo, enter her skill stance, use her ult, basic 3 times, use her skill, do your 4th basic attack, then kaboom! Some notes to add would be that you should aim to cancel the animation of her 3rd basic attack by using her skill while it's happening. That will come with practice. Also, keep in mind that you're only going to be using her ultimate once every 2 full rotations due to its cooldown. So when you aren't able to use it, just remove the ult cast from a rotation. Yet how does this splendid Magistrate work? Her basics will deal 4 basic Spectro Strikes. Not much else to add here, but the animations are a banger. As for her skill, she dashes forward and deals some Spectro damage to enemies. However, if you use her skill after basic attacking 4 times, you can use her skill to enter her flying state. And when you basic again 4 times, you're able to do her crazy nuke. Pretty simple stuff. As for her Resonance Liberation, she will deal a massive amount of Spectro damage with a really cool animation. Nice stuff. As for her Forte circuit, it's what allows her to fly in the air and do her nukes, while also being what stores her enhanced flying skill from using her 4th basic attack. It's also where her nuke stacks are stored. You gain 1 stack for every regular elemental attack that one of your teammates do. Her intro skill is very simple. She'll do a bit of Spectro damage when she enters into battle. Nothing much else to add here. Her Ultra skill will allow her to build up Forte circuit stacks way faster, as it will allow every teammate of any element to generate stacks once every second, as opposed to once every 3 seconds. As for Jinhsi's Ascension passives, simple. Her A1 provides her with 20% spectral damage bonus. Not much else to add here. This is as simple as it gets. Her A4 is pretty worthless, since it just increases the damage multiplier of her intro skill. Nothing much else to add here. As for her Forte priority, simple. Go for this. All of her scalings within her flying mode are stored inside of her Forte circuit, so you don't actually have to bother with leveling her skill unless you really want to. Her intro isn't that important either, so you can ignore it. Her ult does a sizable chunk of damage, so I wouldn't ignore it if I were you. Do you wish to donate for the cause of protecting Jinzhou? Then let's talk about sequences. This is a great upgrade to your damage output, as she's able to gain up to 80% extra skill nuke damage bonus. This S2 removes the need to do an opener of your Jinhsi, which is pretty nice. Good S2, not a must by any means, but certainly a nice piece of quality of life. You're able to get up to 50% extra attack from this S3, which is pretty busted. Good sequence that helps out her damage output by a nice margin. She gives everyone 20% attribute damage bonus, including herself. So that's nice. Pretty neat if your Jojo has a 5-star weapon, or if you're playing a well-built Yinlin, because she's able to contribute a good amount of personal damage. Cool stuff. This makes her ult a nuclear bomb, as if it wasn't already. Crazy stuff, your enemies will be dead on arrival with this. At this stage, your Magistrate will be ready to take on the entire continent of Huanglong. She'll end up ruling not just Jinzhou, but the entirety of the world with this. Easily one of the best S6s in all of Wuthering Waves. If you're a whale looking to step into mega high investment territory, then this is 100% a great place to start. In terms of her high asteroid-based investment path, you want to aim for her signature weapon first, then shoot for a copy of Jojo. Afterwards, you can decide to either stay down at S0, or get any amount of sequences that you'd like. She has some of the highest asteroid-based investment potential in the entire game. Jinhsi, even to this day, is still a masterpiece of a Wuthering Waves unit. She's powerful, easy to use, free-to-play friendly, and is an epic pet dragon. What could possibly be any cooler than that? I personally believe that she will remain as the best spectral DPS in the game for a very long time to come. She's still this game's top carry all the way in 2.0, and I doubt that we'll be seeing that change anytime soon. Brilliant 10 out of 10 unit, not to mention that her story writing is also perfect. What a beautiful and powerful unit. But what do you think about Jinhsi? Does her power level still impress you to this day, or does it leave anything to be desired in your opinion? Let me know down below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. I stream once a week every week on Saturday starting from 3 PM UK time. Come along so we can play Wuthering Waves, ZZZ, and do some other fun stuff together. Hopefully this video was able to get your Jinhsi banishing your enemies into the realm of light. This has been Juice, signing out. And do you think that Jinhsi uses Discord in light mode?